Hello, this is Real World Audio, and it's a time to talk about surround sound and how to choose whether you want to go for stereo system to enjoy movies, or do you want to set up a multi-channel stereo sound. And I have already had a few videos on this subject. The one that's called the center channel behind the scenes, I will link it to this video. It gives a background on how the movie sound was conceived, why there are three channels, what's the role of the center channel. And on this video, I also share a few ideas about surround sound. And however, with this video, I would like to look at other aspects of surround sound, because Ramsey has been asking questions about surround, and I think he asked some really relevant, really salient questions, and I like to give him and all of you a more in-depth answer about it, because the ultimate reality of surround sound and I'm not talking right now about the technological term, but about sound that is natural, that appears to come from the space, and you can tell the individual instruments, the individual singers, or if it's a movie, the individual characters from each other. You can hear the happenings, let's say the dog barking from the background, or an explosion, or a spaceship flying over you, and all of these things, if you have a proper stereo system, are done by two speakers, and you need the 5 or more channels when those speakers are not up to the job. And sadly, I would say that I haven't really heard any commercial solution that's up to the job, and that's not just because of the quality of the system, but for proper imaging, you need not just a system, but you need to set it up properly and expertly. And you also need to have a certain room arrangements, maybe room treatments, or your room done and built in a special way, or modified in a special way, to be able to give you this image. Because your room is, if we were talking about cars, it is the racetrack. And if you are like in a meadow or a swamp, you cannot race an F1 race car in a swamp, because it will sink. The same thing is true for the house. If your room acoustics is not there, even though you have a perfect system and you know how to set it up, it will still sink. It will not give you that experience that we want to crave, that three-dimensional deep immersion, when sound is not limited to speakers and it seems to be completely independent from your loudspeakers, and it comes from behind the speakers, maybe even behind your walls, from outside. Like for example, for my 2-channel in my house, if I'm watching Netflix movies with it on 2-channel, there are some really creepy things, like in the movies, there's a motorbike starting, like someone starts a dirt bike, like far on the far side of the screen. You can barely see the dirt bike, and my system does such a good rendering, as if there's a dirt bike outside my house. My neighbor is starting a dirt bike out there, or a dog barking, and it sounds like my neighbor's dog is barking, but I know that his dog is not barking because he doesn't have an Alsatian. And that's what I call a real surround sound. When you get that realism, or when in the movie someone slams the door and you can tell what the door frame was made of, if it was like a wooden door frame and a heavy wooden door, and you could feel it. It sounds like someone like really slams in my door, and I can feel the walls vibrating, resonating, and that sort of experience. And if it's set up properly and your room is I mean working with you, it's cooperating, then 2 channel is all you need. And you would ask the question, then why, then those movies, when they are using a lot of microphones to set up, then all that information is lost. And the problem is that 99.9% of the movies are really done with 2 microphones. And when they add the extra channels, they process the sound for those for the surround channels. They are not usually recorded. It's extremely rare that they use more microphones. And just because when you record with multiple microphones, it's extremely hard to process the sound from multiple channels and make it workable on the screen, because the excuse me. So I have a friend who's a movie director. That's why I see a little bit more in these things, and I have collaborated in making one of his movies. And we recently listened to the uncut version of the movie before the sound processing, any sound processing was done on it, on my system. And well, I will talk about that experience later on, how it sounded, but I can tell you that if there are just 2 channels recorded, it will give the best surround ever. And he's a movie director, and he never, even him as a movie director, never heard a proper stereo system reproduce a movie sound, and he was just shocked. And he said that this does not sound like a home theater in someone's home, but it sounds like the real movie theater. So if you want the real movie theater sound, then I recommend to go for a 2-channel system. However, this is the really hard thing, because in real life, there will be a lot of obstacles that you will run into. And the biggest obstacle, I would say, is your room. And how to set up the speakers, like setting up loudspeakers and treating your room or setting up your room. It is a science, and you really need an expert to set up your speakers. And I can tell you that most of those people who are experts and who you call to set it up, they do usually a poor job at best. And I just recently read one of the stereophile reports, and that wasn't even for movie sound, just for stereo sound. The person who is the manufacturer of the loudspeakers, the company sent out the technician who did measurements and set it up properly, and it didn't sound properly. So the reviewer spent extra couple hours, and then he found the perfect position for them. So it's not something that is easily done, and it's not something where we can just blindly use some measurements and put the speakers there and think that it will sound the best because the measurement tells it will sound the best from there. Not at all. This is a really, really complicated science, and there's very few people with enough practice who can do that. But my advice for all of you is that it is practice. So if you practice setting up loudspeakers, you will learn it. And that's the only way. We have to use our ears. You can use instruments, measurements, experts to help you with calculations, to help you with projections, but the fine-tuning is for your ears only and by your ears only. And most of us, we do not have this at our disposal. And also, I have to tell you that 99.99% of the loudspeakers and amplifiers that you get commercially are not doing a very good job to get you this experience. So if you are just coming to stereo and then you want to set up a good system for watching movies at home, then you are facing a next to impossible challenge to set up a good stereo system that will give you movie experience. And that's why the surround system was invented, to help with you when your room doesn't want to cooperate, when your stereo system, your stereo speakers don't want to cooperate. So this is my advice, how to go on setting up a system for movies for yourself. So first, set up a 2-channel loudspeaker, do your best with it, do all the research you can how to set it up, what would be the best speakers for your case, for your hearing, for your room, for your amplifier, for it. There are like a billion variables there, and I'm sorry to say I cannot give simple answers. It has to be a thorough research, and the better your research, the better your result is. And then when you set it up, if you are satisfied, if you are getting 3D image, you need to go no further. And if you find that it is lacking, only then I would suggest for you to experiment with adding multi-channels to the sound. Because the problem is that if you are having problems with 2 channels, if you add more channels, you are going to create even more problems with it. So this is just my video to tread carefully about surround and how to go about getting your perfect home theater experience. So this is my advice. Do your best to set up a stereo system for that. And if that's not adequate, then I would suggest to experiment with additional channels and then see if you can improve on it or not. And if you could improve with it, with the additional channels, then you are good. If not, then what you need to go and do is research more on 2-channel stereo. So I hope, Ramzi, this little advice will be useful for you, and not just you, but everyone who wants to have a movie experience at home. And good luck for everyone. And if you have questions, please ask. I really welcome when you have dilemmas, you have problems, and I try to get a solution for you. So thank you. Please like, subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.